Welcome to the Wacky World of Work. I'm James Tehrani, your host. Today on the program we have Adam Xavier, the CEO and co-founder of RoadLock, a company that makes motorcycle locks. What's interesting about his story is that while some people's careers go down the proverbial drain, Adam reversed the flow, if you will, and went from a job working in sewers to become the leader of his own company. Thanks for joining us today, Adam.
No problem. Good to see you.
So, what did you learn from that experience that helped shape your current career?
Well, you're right. One of my first jobs when I was a teenager, I worked for the municipality I grew up in, and one of my tasks was working in the sewers. I used to run a camera through the lines to see if there was root growth or damage to the sewer lines. And being one of my first jobs, I wasn't a manager or anything like that. I was just one of the employees. And I had, right out the gate, I had people I had to answer to. But I learned very quickly that in working for the town, I learned quickly the inner workings of the community itself. I was able to see all the structure of the town that I grew up in, things that people don't typically see. Just when you're driving down the road and you run over a sewer cap, you never really think about what's under there. So not just in my task and who I had to report to in the mornings, but the overall backbone of the community kind of hit me hard, and I think it helped me as I started growing my business in understanding the structure and the importance of the structure of a business. So it was more of a metaphorical connection that I made in building RoadLock.
So tell me a little bit about RoadLock then. Tell me how big your company is, and tell the people at home exactly what RoadLock is.
RoadLock is a motorcycle locking system. If you're familiar with motorcycles, it's not like a car where when you park a car and you get out and walk away, you can't move it. On a motorcycle, you can walk up to any motorcycle on the street and just pull in the clutch and wheel it away. So the way that bikers prevent that from happening is they'll use padlocks on their wheels. Mm-hmm. In 2005, my twin brother and I developed a better solution. It's a locking system that mounts to the motorcycle, stays on the motorcycle, and when the rider gets off and locks it, there's no movement whatsoever.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the company specifically. How big are you, for example?
We have employees here in the U.S. We have our main office is here in California. We manufacture. We have a facility in North Carolina, and we just set up an operation in Hangzhou, China. And then we have distributors around the world. We have the distribution partners in Japan, 2 in China, South Africa, and Australia.
So what are some of the challenges then of managing an international staff like that? And what kind of input do you have in personnel decisions with your distributorships?
As far as the personnel goes, we have had situations where we set up distributors, and because of the way that our product is sold, and there's a very specific way to sell it, we have had distributors that haven't worked the right way with us. We've had some personnel, especially overseas, not being in direct contact with them, where I can't walk down the hallway here and stick my head in their office, and you're doing things over Skype, over the phone.
Sure.
We've experienced some personnel issues where we've had to go alternate routes. Because our product is patented, also anybody that works with us has to follow a very strict guideline of how to put the product out into the market. There's liability issues. There's ways that the trademark gets shown. So it's been a challenge.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, because I was reading an interview that I guess you did at Idea Mensch, and you were talking about how you were more of a micromanager earlier in your career. How were you able to let that go, and how did that improve maybe the employee morale?
It's still a struggle. I think for myself, I lean towards being more of a perfectionist, but I'm also one of the inventors of the product. So in that reason for because I came up with the concept of the product, I think I was more of a micromanager right out the gate. Mm-hmm. So it was a struggle in 2006 when we started hiring our first employees to work with us, handing a task off and being confident that they could execute it the way you would. Mm-hmm. So delegation was a huge hurdle. Still, there's still little things that'll come up here even in 2015 where I look back and say, okay, got to remember to delegate. They can do their job. So the problem with not being able to delegate and not being able to hand responsibility to someone is if you can't do it, you won't grow.
Speaking of sharing your vision, what is your relationship with Warren Buffett?
I started this company in about 8 months after I graduated college, and one of my senior papers was actually writing about Warren Buffett, so it's very fresh in my mind. Used to follow him because I went to school for finance, and when we wrote our first business plan in 2005, I'm one of those entrepreneurs. I'm one of those guys that I'll call anybody. If I get a phone number, I'll knock on anybody's door. So I took our business plan, very green business plan, very collegiate, and I sent it to Berkshire Hathaway, addressed to Warren Buffett.
Of course you did.
And didn't put it in the mailbox and kind of forgot about it. 2 months later, the envelope came back to us, to our P.O. box that we had set up for, we as me and my brother, that we set up for New Hampton Technologies, which is the legal name of RoadLock. And it didn't say return to sender on it, but there was a label on it. And when I opened it, I said, maybe his secretary read it, or his assistant read it and sent it back. But a couple days later, I started looking through it, and he had notes in our business plan by pencil.
Wow.
And on the inside cover, he actually wrote a letter saying that he reviewed the business plan, he really liked our idea, he thinks that it's smart going after things like patents and aligning with brands to get a strong position to create a barrier to entry. And then he said it's not in his line of investments, he's more into insurance and whatever, best of luck, W. Buffett.
Oh, wow.
So, we filed that away, and then about 5 months later, we realized one of the brands we needed to align with was Geico, because they're an insurance company, we're a safe locking system. So we reached out to them, and we tried getting a meeting with their vice president at the time, Kirk Law. We got a lead back, but he wouldn't return our call. So I started calling Berkshire Hathaway for Mr. Buffett. I said, no, he knows who I am. He knows who I am. And finally,
we're like this, right?
Okay. On my fourth or fifth call, they put me through to his personal assistant, and she said, I'll relay the message to him that you're having trouble getting through to Geico. Hung up the phone. 10 minutes later, Kirk Law calls us to set up a meeting.
One more question for you. It seems like work-life balance is very important to you from what I've read. So what does your company do to help promote work-life balance for the employees?
And we started this company in New York, and one of the things we used to do is 2 or 3 days a week around 4:30, we'd call it quits, and the majority of the employees all rode motorcycles, so we go out on motorcycle rides together. That worked for about 7 months of the year. It's New York. You can't ride winter. When we moved to California, a lot of the crew that was in New York stayed, and we hired people here in California. And out here in Santa Monica, it's beach volleyball. So on Wednesdays, we force ourselves to leave halfway through the day. We walk down to the beach and we play volleyball. It is important to have a balance, and to grow a team, you need to do things like that to connect, because all work and no play, really, it might seem like you're getting more done, but it's a law of diminishing returns.
Sure.
Especially with, when you're in an office space and you're talking about motorcycles and you're not outside, and connecting.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Wacky World of Work. I'd like to thank Adam for joining us. If you have a question about the program or want to get in touch with me, you can email me at editors@workforce.com, or you can always tweet to me at @WorkforceJames. Until next time, like I always say, whatever works. Thank you very much.